What's going on, guys? It's Patrick, and we're here with the first ever episode of Review the Review, where I'm going to take a movie and then we're going to review the reviews. So we're here with the movie The Professor, featuring Johnny Depp, and just to kind of go over, if you haven't already seen the movie, is Johnny Depp plays a guy who's a college professor, and we'll just read it right here off of the Google search for the description. Is after learning he has 6 months to live, a college lecturer transforms into a rebellious party animal. To the shock of his wife and school chancellor, and to the delight of his students, he leads a crusade against authority and hypocrisy. It was directed by Wayne Roberts, screenplay by Wayne Roberts. You can see the producers was Brian Jones and Greg Shapiro, and then the production company is Infinitum Nihil, Open Roads Films, and Automatic Entertainment. So, props to all those guys for making what I think was honestly a wonderful movie. So we see right here, Rotten Tomatoes, it says 6%. IMDb has 6.8 out of 10, and Metacritic has 37%. So we're gonna go in and see what these different things have to say. So let's go right here to RottenTomatoes.com. And the tomato meter 6%, but the audience score was an 83%. Let's go through movie info. So Richard, who's played by Johnny Depp, a button-down college lecturer who, after learning he has 6 months to live, was pretty much everything we already read. To the shock of his wife, who was played by Rosemary DeWitt, and school chancellor, played by Ron Livingston, and the delight of his students, Richard leads a hilarious crusade against authority and hypocrisy in this dark comedy, co-starring Zoe Douche. Douche. Runtime 91 minutes. It did genuinely feel like 91 minutes. When I do, I'm trying to do a movie review next for John Wick 3, which I'll get into. But some movies, like John Wick, 2 hour, 10-minute runtime. This movie, 91-minute runtime. This genuinely did feel like its runtime. It didn't feel like it spent too much time on certain things. It didn't feel exaggerated. It didn't feel drawn out. It was really clear cut to what the artistic direction for the movie was, and I think it nailed it right on the head. Studio was Saban Films. So for the cast, you had Johnny Depp as the main character Richard, Zoe Deutch playing Claire, who was one of his students, Ron Livingston playing a guy named Harry, who is sort of the antagonist of the movie, Rosemary DeWitt playing Veronica, his wife, and then Siobhan Hogan, who plays Donna, who's Peter's wife, who's played by Danny Huston, and Peter is Richard's best friend in the movie. So, critic reviews for The Professor. Poof. No doubt this movie will disappear quickly before our very eyes. I'm going to go ahead and sadly agree with that, because the movie has not gotten a lot of attention. I never really saw a trailer for it. I never heard anything about it. I honestly stumbled upon it accidentally. I was sitting on my couch looking through movies on TV, on Netflix, on demand, all these different platforms, trying to find something to watch, and I saw this movie on demand. Actually, it was under the free section. No, actually, it was rented. I rented it for like $8, which I honestly would have paid movie price to see this in theaters if I knew it was going to be as good as I think it was. I stumbled upon it, and the only thing that caught my eye was seeing Johnny Depp on the cover art for it. When I saw that, I was immediately intrigued, because I do like Johnny Depp as an actor, and I think everything that he went through these past couple years with all the controversy of he was accused of abusing his wife, and then all this time later it comes to find out she was abusing him and he was the victim, and just the whole everything built up with Johnny Depp. I was glad to see him getting back into a role that was perfect for Johnny Depp. And I think everyone can agree Johnny Depp is the kind of actor who, when he plays a role, it's never like a clear-cut, what seems to be an easy role to play. Obviously, he's most famous for roles like Edward Scissorhands and Captain Jack Sparrow for Pirates of the Caribbean, but this role definitely fit Johnny Depp perfectly. Like, I don't think anyone really could have played this part as convincing and as well as he did. So let's go on to another. We have, the movie frequently makes no sense from a purely human perspective, and it becomes increasingly annoying as the story rolls on. Full stop. James Berardinelli, I am fully convinced you are a robot. Because if you think this makes no sense from a purely human perspective, and it becomes increasingly annoying as the story rolls on, no. This movie, for those of you who might have seen something like Swiss Army Man, it's not as weird as Swiss Army Man, but it's purely human. Like, I don't think they could have done much more to make it purely human. It's a guy who, in the first 5 seconds of the movie starting, gets told by his doctor he has cancer and he's going to die. And they give him a year and some change with treatment and 6 months without treatment. And he goes without treatment. So you have a guy, a college professor, who gets told he has 6 months left to live. And it's the story of how he is trying to rationalize this in his mind, but also continue to teach his class in a brand new way. That sounds to me like a purely human story. And it made sense the entire time. Everything he does, everything he says, everything that happens in the movie made sense. Because if you paid attention in the first 5 seconds of the film, and even read the description that I read at the beginning of this video, you find out he's dying. The man is going to die. And when he says it gets increasingly annoying, that makes no sense to me. Maybe James Berardinelli is just not a fan of movies that are true to human nature, but he tries to make it sound like it's not purely human. I don't know. I 100% disagree with that entire one. Next we have, the professor is more subservient to feel-good cliches than its too cool for school veneer indicates. What? Is more subservient to feel-good cliches than its too cool for school veneer indicates. No. No, the whole movie, he's struggling with, like we just went over, the fact that the dude's dying, but in his, specifically with his classes, they do a great job in this film of, Johnny Depp's character has 4 or 5 moments that are filmed beautifully, but they're monologues. He gets a couple moments in that are really strong monologues, and for a movie like this, it fits perfectly. It's moments where he kind of gets, again, a purely human moment where he gets filled with this idea that comes into his mind, and he portrays it to his class, in I mean, like a miniature speech, kind of like he as a teacher does, but really moving monologues. And to say that it's subservient to feel-good cliches than it's too cool for school veneer indicates, from Nick Allen at RogerEbert.com. Dude, you should not be reviewing movies. Though Robert's screenplay draws attention to its structure with frequent chapter headings, it plays like a work that has been victimized by too many editors, each trying to achieve something different. By John DeFore at The Hollywood Reporter. I can see where he's coming from. There were different moments in the movie that it never stuck 100% of the way through of one sort of... It always had one overarching idea, and the overarching idea was sort of life is... You're always on this one track mind of I need to get a good job, I need to go through school to achieve that good job, to get a good pay, to get a house, to live by society standards, because if I don't do that, I'm an outcast and a degenerate, and he's sort of breaking that down to his students of like, this is not a life worth living. But there are moments where you kind of see the cinematography takes different directions. Like, with the monologues, some of the monologues are in, how should I put this? There's moments where the artistic direction with the cinematography and the editing does mix a little bit, where like one scene seems to be like it was made by a different editor and then the next scene is somebody else. But I mean, you can find that with almost any movie. You found that with Infinity Wars. You found that with Avatar, the one of, well, until recently, the biggest box office movie of all time, up until Endgame and John Wick 3. But it seems like he didn't have much to say that was negative, so he kind of was reaching. I don't know. Let's see here. Depp's turbocharged arcness is basically the whole show. The actor appears as out of wits to give as the man he's playing, with little interest in enunciating clearly or hiding self-regard. Oh my gosh. Okay. The actor appears as out of wits to give as the man he's playing. The man he's playing is a highly educated college professor who's very smart, very loyal to the college, and no. And then with little interest in enunciating clearly or hiding self-regard. Listen, real people do not sit in a classroom. Well, alright, forget the classroom part. The aspects of the movie that aren't in the classroom, like, there's multiple scenes with his family at the dinner table, his wife, his daughter, and him. There's multiple scenes in bars. When you're sitting at a bar and you're having an emotional conversation with somebody, in real life, do you really care about whether or not you enunciated a T or a D, or whether you spoke clearly so that the audience can understand you perfectly? And I understand, yes, it's a movie, but it's Johnny Depp's voice. Like, you can understand everything he's saying. It's his voice that they're sort of having an issue with. Again, Ben Kenigsberg from New York Times. Oh, New York Times. I should have read that first. New York Post. I'm going to skip you. It's Just Movies by Ron Wilkinson. An off-season ditty for Johnny Depp. This short story of a short life gives Depp the time to do a short performance. What? Time to do a short performance. He did great. He played the role really well. I liked the movie. None of the relationships register as more than surface-level drivel. That's Kiko Martinez from San Antonio Current. That is so not true. Pardon me, I can't tell if most of these are negative because it's Johnny Depp, but all the relationships have those deep connections that you can all relate to. Like, every single relationship he has with somebody in the movie is realistic. It's true to not only the narrative of the story and the character, but it's like none of it's far-fetched. None of it is like, wow, like that would never happen in real life. It's all truly human. Let's go through the rest of these. Chris Bumbray from Joe Blow's Movie Emporium. A spectacularly ill-timed movie. Feels like it was inspired by the writings of Jordan Peterson at times. Okay, that's purely objective and opinionated because Jordan Peterson, the writings of Jordan Peterson, if they're talking about the same Jordan Peterson that I'm thinking of, he's a globally nominated and like accredited person, public speaker, writer, everything he's ever done. All of his work gets accredited by scientists and like philosophers and people of profession all over the world. So Chris Bombre from Joe Blow's Movie Emporium, I don't think you have the right to really say that it feels like it was inspired by the writings of Jordan Peterson, because, I mean, you make it sound like it's negative, but that actually sounds very positive to me. But because you said ill-timed movie, I don't really get what you're trying to say. You started off by trashing the movie and then said something good about it without meaning it to be good. I don't know. Mark reviews movies. Mark Dujsik. The biggest problem with The Professor is one of casting. I'm going to go ahead and disagree with that too. Each character played their role perfectly. I'm going to assume again that they're trashing Johnny Depp because of everything controversial that's happened with him, but no. Brian Orndorff from Blu-ray.com. Most of the emotion doesn't track as clearly as it should, periodically inspiring Depp to manufacture his own version of the movie with expected exaggeration. Periodically inspiring Depp to manufacture his own version of the movie with expected exaggeration. Okay, I can see the expected exaggeration part because, again, it's Johnny Depp, and the roles he's played have always been ones of flair and drama and exaggeration, but he does a really good job of toning that down for the role. Most of the emotion doesn't track as clearly as it should. I disagree with that strongly. I know I'm beating a dead horse at this point, but the emotion tracks as clearly as it should. Roger Moore from Movie Nation. I can't ever recall truly hating a Depp leading man performance, but this comes close. I just have to disagree with that. I mean, I'm beating a dead horse at this point, guys. It's a good movie. It's an honest movie. Yeah, I don't need to repeat myself anymore. You sort of get the point. Let's go ahead and check one more source. We'll go to IMDb. We'll see what's up with the IMDb. So it got a 6.8 out of 10, which I'm going to say is understandable. It's not the greatest movie of all time, but I would personally give it a 7 or a 7.5. So we can come down to reviews. 70 user and 13 critic. Let's go through some of the user reviews. So we've got 10 out of 10, funny but heartbreaking. 8 out of 10, why do we float through this weird thing called life without living? That's a quote from one of his monologues. 10 out of 10, lovely movie. Johnny Depp shines. It's charming, heartbreaking, and funny. It's nice to see a movie with Johnny Depp where he's not buried under makeup. 7 out of 10, another Johnny Depp film, another lively portrait. 9 out of 10, sweet, glorious end. Well-written story where wit and seriousness all mix into a feast. Depp is great as a man on his last spurt to make his life what it's supposed to have been. This is the Poets Society of this decade. It's Groundhog Day, except it's not about infinite chances, but just that one chance. This is Stairway to Haven, performed by Hart. Look it up. If you saw more in these than just a bit of fun, you will really, really like The Professor. That was written by user Puppies Wale. I 100% agree with that. 7 out of 10. An Oscar nomination for Johnny. As a drama lover, this is the first time that I see the real talent of Johnny Depp. He should really give us more. Great film, great acting. By user Salamrius TAC 26015. 10 out of 10. Depp is amazing and perfect actor. 6 out of 10. Depp unmasked. Oh, spoiler warning. I'll skip over that. Look at this. 7 out of 10. 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 8 out of 10, 6 out of 10, 10 out of 10, 10 out of 10, brilliant. User Victoria Noeli really enjoyed the movie. Depp is awesome as always. So user reviews is strikingly very positive. As I would consider myself in this case a 37 on Metacritic. What? 13 critic reviews on IMDb. Let's read some of these. Let's see what is going on here. So we've got... who do we want to click on? Let's go to Ready, Steady, Cut, Dan Hart. So this is ReadySteadyCut.com. Nice little picture from one of the scenes. The 2018 review, a showcase of recklessness and impending death. Summary. Wow. Summary. Wayne Roberts, the professor, stars a slurring character played by Johnny Depp and articulates a well-made drama about a man coming to terms with his impending death. Okay, so maybe this review will be kind of positive. Wayne Roberts, the professor. Really quick, again, this was written by Daniel Hart. Wayne Roberts, the professor, is a sudden realization that life is ridiculously short. With the drama starring Johnny Depp viewing life in the shallowest of ways, we often live life as if there is no death. We avoid our most certain outcome stubbornly, pretending that our bodies have genetics that do not deteriorate over time. I like that. Death is much more trustworthy than time, which is a clear message from the director in this dark comedy story. The way he treats... So I skipped down a little bit. The way he treats those close to him and his essential acquaintances is what serves the film well, as he drunkenly deals with any situation thrown at him and at times forgets his impact on those who do not necessarily understand that he's dying. The one snag that did muddle my mind is the fact that it is Johnny Depp doing what he does best, acting drunk. After years of witnessing this man play the famous Captain Jack Sparrow, it's almost like the professor chose him because he convincingly delivers an inebriated voice. I will agree with that, and that does go against that guy earlier who complained about the way he speaks. His intoxicated ways are more reserved and focused in Wayne Roberts' feature, but I admittedly expected him to go on a pirate rant. Depp's performance is fine, but at the same time, this is his film. Yet it showcased nothing new or groundbreaking that separates it from anything else in his filmography. The professor proves Wayne Roberts' talents in constructing a well-made drama and confirms that Johnny Depp can still act. With those things merged together, you have a decent story. I don't disagree with much from this guy. Not at all. I agree with the things he said, and yeah, I don't see many issues with what he just talked about. Let's do one more. Try and find somebody negative so we can kind of dispute it. We'll go with Slant Magazine, Chuck Bowen. So this is slantmagazine.com. For a review of The Professor is a diverting yet disingenuously virtuous time killer. Oof, gonna disagree with this one. This film goes down easy because it saves self-improvement cliches for the home stretch. Published 3 weeks ago by Chuck Bowen. Wayne Roberts, the professor, concerns an intelligent and privileged man who grows bored with the comfortable stagnancy of his life and decides to live out loud. It's not that he grows bored. It's... he finds out he's dying, and it changes his mindset. The Professor narrative recalls that of Sam Mendes' American Beauty, as well as those of a variety of other films, shows, and novels that mine an especially American male strand of resentment, in which men feel that they were cheated out of their proper proportion of adventure, sexual and financial gratification, and ego massage. Ah, boy. I don't think I need to talk on that one. This film goes down easy because Robert reserves most of the self-improvement cliches for the last 15 minutes of the running time. Until then, he uses his conceit mostly as an excuse to allow his star actor to freely express his impulses. As Richard, an English professor dying of cancer, Johnny Depp gives his most purely enjoyable performance in some time. I'm going to agree with that. One that's shorn of the more overt gimmickry he's adopted over the years as the star of many exploded blockbusters. Disagree with that. Depp is still in his mid-period Brando phase, in which his inescapable talent and force of personality aren't quite separable from the sense that he's sleepwalking. Like Brando, Depp can make aloofness weirdly sexy and democratic. I'll agree with that, as this quality helps him forge a complicit kinship with his audience. Most people watching The Professor will recognize that it's following a formula, and Depp's light air of who gives a fuckness is way of saying, let's see what we can do with this. These qualities also suit Richard, who throws out his syllabus and begins binge drinking with his students. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's see how he ends this. Robert at least partially understands that Richard's penchant for self-help speeches is ridiculous and indulgent, but he doesn't see the inherent humor in one of the film's central ideas, that Richard's supposedly radical restructuring of his curriculum simply involves smoking weed in a park and having students deliver high school level book reports. Disagree. Sure, the book choices in the movie, like he tells one of his students, she says she doesn't know what to do the report on, and he goes, oh, Moby Dick, good choice. I like Moby Dick. Which, sure, Moby Dick, high school level, but the point of it was that he's taking these students, giving them something that's not like Sun Tzu's Art of War, and telling them to find a connection in their own life to change their own life through something simple. The girl that he tells her to do Moby Dick is a female character who, at the beginning of the class, is portraying really strong feminist views, which is, at least, they didn't do a good job of portraying that per se, but you get the idea. And he tells her to do Moby Dick, and when she gives her speech in front of the class in the park, he asks her at the end, like, what's in one word. He says, like, in one word, describe the whole book in one word, and she goes vengeful. And he turns, because he was looking the other way, he turns and he goes, oh, so you liked it. And he's making the point that she was the character in the class that had the strongest feminist views, and she read a book that was purely, the alpha male at sea, a crew of men, salty sailors, that kind of thing, that she still found enjoyment in it. And that was supposed to portray that you can have these strong personal beliefs, but that doesn't mean you have to close your mind to everything in life that at face value goes against your belief, if that made any sense. If Roberts had satirized Richard while simultaneously enjoying his character's drunken, haughty promiscuity, he might have fashioned a bracingly adult comedy rather than a diverting yet disingenuously virtuous time killer. It wasn't a time killer. You get a lot out of the movie as long as you immerse yourself. I mean, that's sort of true with every movie, but even if you don't immerse yourself fully, there's still things you can pull from the movie that relate to your own life. It is a purely human movie. So I think that's actually going to do it for now. I don't really think we need to go on a Metascore or for Metacritic. I think we sort of got the point. 93% liked this movie. From what we've seen so far, I think that was mostly users. Critics are always harsh. You know that, but overall, I said before I would give the movie a 7 or 7.5. I think I'll lean more on... I watched the movie twice. I'll give it a 7.5. I'll give it a 7.5, mainly because the story's true to human nature. The characters are true to human nature. Not everybody fits this fairy tale narrative of how you think somebody should act when they get told they have 6 months left to live. It fits the idea of this is how this man reacts to being told he has 6 months left to live. This is how this man reacts to these things that also go on in his life that to any person who wasn't just told they had 6 months left to live would crush and destroy them. But because, ironically, he knows he's dying soon, he sort of goes through the pain by brushing it off, laughing it off, being like, wow, none of these things really matter in the grand scheme, because in his mind he knows he's dying. And of course Johnny Depp hit it out of the park in my opinion. So hopefully you guys enjoyed my first installment of Review the Review, and I'll catch you guys next time. Take care.